Okay, so I was trying to think of a topic to do something on or whatever, a video on, and this came to me. It's uh, if you're gonna make a cheap AR-15, where and how to cut on costs. This is how I would build a cheap AR-15. Um, First off, the KE arms lower. I know a lot of people don't like polymer lowers, but you can go watch all the shit on it. I've been in love with Cav arms lowers for years. They made a perfected one. What does this get you? Well, for $130 or something like that, maybe it's a little bit more now. It was $130 when I got them. You get the lower, the grip, the stock. It's the complete lower assembly of the gun for $130. It's lighter weight and it's cheap. This is where I argue now that exists, every other AR-15 is fucking technologically behind the eight ball, really. It shaves like a good pound off of the gun and shaves several $100s off of the price. Now, you will have to probably add your own buffer and trigger system to upgrade it, because you probably don't like whatever it comes with. But both of mine came with acceptable mil-spec triggers. One was 5.5 pounds and one was 6 pounds. The buffers are kind of junky, but you can go put an H buffer in it for fucking, $20. That's what I would do for the lower on the gun. I wouldn't look at anything else. I don't think there is a reason to look at anything else because of the cost. You skip a lot of bullshit by it having the grip it has, by it having the stock it has. Like, learn to live with less. I actually prefer a fixed M16A1 length stock and a Magpul MOE grip. So Russell Fagan, I don't know, I keep hitting on him on Instagram. Maybe I should try harder. I want to get that KE Arms money. But seriously though, I like him because he's made basically my favorite piece of gun technology of the last, I don't know, couple decades for sure. So now that you've established that you're going to use a KE arms lower for a cheap light build, which every build your goal should be to make it lighter. What do you do for an upper on such a cheap gun? There's two options really. There's the option of you're just going to go buy a Palmetto State Armory A3 upper. Has M16A2 handguards on it. You get a mid-length. Have a front sight already. That is, again, if you're looking for economy, it gets you a front sight. You don't have to fuck around with rails or handguards or anything, and there's ways to mount lights to the A-frame, really, and that's the way I would do it now. I don't know. You do that, you put a Magpul backup sight on it, one of the metal ones. I like the Magpul Pro backup sights. They're like $70. It's super lightweight. From there, the only thing you really need is like a light and an optic and a sling and shit, and that's all kind of preferential. The other route to go on the upper, though, is I would get a plain Jane A3 upper. From whoever. I don't really care who it's from, but a quality maker, forged. I have a billet on one of my guns, and I don't really like it, but I'm kind of stuck with it. Anyway, I would do that, and I would go buy whatever rail it is that you want. I tend to like Troy Industries rails. I really like their M-Lock alpha rails. So I'd probably get one of those, and then I'd probably put like a Faxon or a Ballistic Advantage barrel in it. And doing this, you're like, oh, that's not that cheap or whatever. It kind of is if you're putting it together yourself. You have to have the upper charging handle bolt carrier group. And that's going to be the price that it is, basically. And then you're going to need your barrel and gas system and barrel nut and handguard. And the barrel, the ones I mentioned are like 170, 180 bucks. The handguard, that is a more expensive handguard. You could go cheaper. That's just, if you ask me what I would buy, that's what I would buy. Also, KE Arms makes a lightweight rail. You can go look that up. I would actually look at that too. I would kind of want one of those. I've been fooling around with maybe buying one of those for one of my guns. So, I don't know. I don't think I would go with that option because it is so much more expensive. Again, we're going for budget build. Where can you cut cost and whatever? Like, getting a plain Jane old school upper from Palmetto State Armory saves you a lot of money and gets you a lot of capabilities, really. Like a mid-length A3 upper with a light and a red dot and a sight added to it. That's as good as you're ever going to need to defend yourself. That's better than a lot of people have in combat. So, you figure that a phosphate upper from Palmetto State's like $230, $250, somewhere in there. Plus $130 lower, $150 lower, however you want to figure that. It's a cheap way to go. You can build better shit. No argument about that, but like this works. And if I had it to do over again, I think I would get the Palmetto State Armory nitride upper, not the phosphate. I got the phosphate because I like the way it looks, basically. It's the older school tech or whatever, but from what I'm researching, I think nitride is the future of barrel technology. I think all of my barrels from here on out are going to be nitride. And this is a place where you can save a lot of money because, like, Cold Hammer Forge chrome line barrels are expensive. Nitride barrels, like Ballistic Advantage, just jumped up from being a $130 barrel to a $180 barrel. Maybe they had a Christmas sale on or something that ended. I don't know. It didn't say anything about a sale. They just inflation. Like, this is where I really need to get some of these parts ordered before they get any more expensive. But I have so much shit to order before I can even get to, like, fucking a barrel. Because really, I'm going to order a barrel and gas system and bolt carrier group all from a Ballistic Advantage all at once. And it's like $370, something like that. And I'm going to have to save up a little bit to do that. But I think that's the way to go. So if you're looking to, like, spend more money, get a little bit better gun, I'd do that from Ballistic Advantage because that's literally what I'm doing. And then I would just buy a rail and an upper for it and a charging handle. And whatever barrel nut you need. Although your rail probably will come with one. So that's what I would do. One's super budget and one's higher end budget. You gotta build in it yourself. But like, you're gonna end up with a rifle that shoots as good as shit that's, $3,000. That's one thing you should get about what I'm doing to Moon Tiger, is by dropping that Ballistic Advantage kit into it, that's a substantial upgrade in how that gun shoots. It's making it a whole different gun. That's why it's worth $400. And part of it's having the fucking bolt carrier and barrel mated probably, and some of it's probably the longer nitride barrel over whatever fucking bullshit Bear Creek it has on it. Like, the Bear Creek stuff, I honestly think 90-95% chance of being fine. I only have 2 guns. I'm not going to take 90%. Like, not when I'm already wanting to lengthen the barrel and do other things anyway. And there's several upgrades that I'm wanting to make. I'm like, let's just do this shit. And like, Loki at this point is pretty much done But I think I am eventually going to upgrade her gas tube and trigger. I don't know what else. Maybe even get a bolt carrier eventually. Because it would be cool to have just a pile of extra bolt carriers. That's a thing that's really easy to replace in a gun that can cause a lot of problems. And I'm going to get nitride bolt carriers, I think. I don't know. I go back and forth between nickel boron and nitride bolt carriers. But the nitride is substantially cheaper. And as a metal finish goes, it and nickel boron are both good finishes. I don't really know which one I would prefer in a bolt carrier group. I might end up going nickel boron just because it's flashy. And like I'm going to have a nickel boron trigger too. So we might do that. And that's going to be more money if I do that. I think it's like an extra $50. Loki, I kind of go back and forth on putting a Faxon barrel on. But like in reality, I don't think it needs it. I just kind of wish I'd bought the nitride upper. That may be one thing where like later I buy a fucking nitride barrel from Palmetto State or something like that, because that would be cheap probably. Just swap it out. That or buy a fucking nitride upper and take it to somebody and have the barrel swapped out and sell the phosphate upper. Or, you know, build another gun maybe. I don't know. It's probably not worth swapping out. It's one of those I wish I had been investigating barrel technology, because then I probably would have taken the nitride. Really makes me think back to the Smith & Wesson M&P Sport from many years ago that had the 5R rifling and the melanite barrel. Man, those were nice guns. Who would have thunk it? Like, it was one of those things that, like, at the time, everybody was going, that gun's not chrome lined. Like, they did that to a lot of guns. And to be honest, I'm kind of thinking that in 20 to 30 years' time, chrome lining is still going to be a thing on belt-fed machine guns and shit. But I think everything else is going to be going to nitride. And it's mostly a cost times barrel life thing that, like, the nitride makes the barrel last a hell of a lot longer. And it costs almost nothing to do, whereas, you know, cold hammer forging and chrome lining costs quite a bit to do, apparently. As I understand the nitride process, it's basically they just dunk the barrels in a few different baths. Some are heated salt, and some are, I think, oil maybe, or water. I'm not really sure. It does something to the surface of the metal, though. And I got sold on that by watching a gas tube test. And this is why, like, if you're going to build a gun for high rate of fire, you definitely need a melanite gas tube. It's just going to be better for you. It handles heat way better. You can go look this up on YouTube. Search melanite versus Inconel gas tube test. You'll find a video of someone cutting them with an oxyacetylene torch. And they start out with a standard stainless tube and then do a melanite. And the Inconel, I don't know. The melanite, though, is the same price as the fucking stainless tubes. Available most of the same places the stainless tubes are. And the stainless tube was cut in a second. The melanited tube, it took like 10 seconds. That's huge. So, if you're wanting to build a budget gun, I would go with all nitride parts. Or as much of it as you can. Like, it's going to save you money and get you a better gun. So, like, it's not going to be as cheap as phosphate. You could go phosphate, but this is for the, hey, we're going to spend a little bit more money than just buying a fucking Palmetto upper. So, I was going to buy a phosphate bolt carrier group, and there's really nothing wrong with that still. But at the price difference again, either go nitride or nickel boron or something. would be my advice. Like, if you're seriously going to upgrade, I think doing all nitrited parts would be cool. Except for maybe the trigger, because I would always do the ALG-ACT, probably. At least for a budget trigger, especially. And it's nickel boron. Like I said, buffer-wise, if you just want a good buffer, I go to BCM, because I know BCM sells quality parts, and I get a carbine spring and a H buffer from them. That's usually what I do on most guns. I don't buy a lot of shit from BCM anymore, but some small components like that, I still buy from BCM because I know exactly what I'm going to get. They use mil-spec parts. And buffers are one of those things that, like, I don't know. I wouldn't order that from Palmetto State Armory or fucking Midway even, really. Like, you never know what you're gonna fucking get. Half the buffers on the market anymore are some Chinese junk. And, like, a lot of people don't get how much of, like, the heart and soul of their rifle the buffer is. Like, the bolt carrier group, buffer and buffer spring, and your barrel are the key pivotal parts of the rifle, right? Nothing else really matters. I would focus on those. And, you know, if you notice, a lot of the shit that I told you to buy in this video, it isn't $1,000 barrel. Like, all the barrels that I told you to buy are under $200. All the bolt carrier groups I told you to buy are under $200. When you're all said and done, if you spent big money on everything, following my advice in this video, you'd probably have like a $1,200 AR-15. Something like that. Maybe $1,000. It depends on how much you spend on other shit, right? Because, like, you're going to have a $150, let's say, lower. And then, you know, let's say you do the ballistic advantage shit. So that's $400. And then, you're going to need a rail and an upper. The upper is $100, so that's, let's see, 450, 550, 650, and then the rail is going to be an easy couple $100. It's like $850, and we haven't even gotten to a muzzle device and sights and all the rest of that shit yet. That route is expensive. That is not a fucking beater carbine or whatever, but that gets you a very, very nice rifle for not a lot of money. If you really want, you know, baller on a budget, I still say that A3 upper from Palmetto State Armory. Go the nitride route. And then on the lower, the KE Arms lower, put an ALG ACT in it and an H buffer. And, like, you can get the H buffer spring and ACT for like 105 something at BCM. And the lower is like $150, and then you have whatever you spend on a Palmetto State Armory upper. You know, which can be as low as a couple $100. I think that's seriously, like, if you just want a budget self-defense carbine, that's how I would go. And then I would put a SIG red dot or a Hollow Sun red dot on it of some sort, and a Magpul backup sight. Well, I hope this helps you in your budget build endeavors. See you guys later.